What's up, everyone? Welcome into Stadium Drive Week 11. It's playoff football, baby. Will Ford, Aaron Sprague here at West Muskingum High School as the Tornadoes are hosting the number 5 Tornadoes in D5 are hosting the number 12 Union Local Jets. Aaron, Week 11's here, man. I can't believe that we are finally here with playoff football, and I think this might be the best game that we've got going on that we're covering. Tornadoes, Jets. I think this is going to be a super exciting game.
Yeah, it's a really exciting matchup. I think two close to evenly matched teams.
Yeah.
Basically I-70 opponents. Union Local located in Belmont County just outside of St. Clairsville in Morristown. Then, of course, West Muskingum here right off of Interstate 70 as well on the west side of Zanesville. Definitely excited to be here in Week 11, and it's crazy how fast time flies. We were here Week 1,
we were
first ever Stadium Drive.
We were, and we didn't really know how the show was going to look. We just kind of hopped on and talked, and here we are 10 weeks later.
It went really well, and we're excited to come full circle back here to Whirlwind Stadium. It is windy so far tonight.
Yeah.
But luckily the temperature pretty comfortable. And, you know, neither of these teams, I mean, it's not like we're running the spread, throwing it a ton. We all know West Muskingum's top weapon we'll see plenty of tonight.
Oh, yeah. Rashid Cisse broke the MVL single-season touchdown record last week. 39 total touchdowns on the season. He broke the record with a pick six against Meadowbrook. So he not only is he just a complete weapon offensively, but he does it defensively too. And so it's kind of talking to Coach Brownrick about it. He thought it was kind of ironic that he broke the record on a pick six instead of something offensively.
And Will, did you see the pick six, the video of that?
I did, yeah.
To describe it, he's out of the linebacker spot, comes up, basically catches it out of the quarterback's hands like 5 feet from the line of scrimmage.
I mean, just snagged it. I just got some stickum on his gloves or something like that.
I mean, usually you see that sometimes with a lineman, but he came back and just came up, grabbed it, and went into the end zone.
And that was on our top plays of the week.
It was.
Presented by Max Effort Muscle, who's also a sponsor of this show as well. But so check that out on Instagram because I saw that earlier today and it was a pretty sick play.
Oh, it was super cool. And really, I mean, we had a comment on our Instagram and someone was talking about, check this kid out, 39 touchdowns. And the guy commented, in a career? It's like, no, in a season.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is pretty crazy.
Now, he does have the school record for touchdowns in a season, I believe.
Well, career.
Career, sorry. Yeah, I think it's like 50.
No, he has to.
Yeah, something. It's way, he's got the record for sure. But no, single season touchdowns. Unbelievable, 39.
Well, and the guy he beat, and a legend in his own right, Drew Cannon. Anyone that's grown up around MVL football, Drew Cannon from New Lexington, running back, was good, and they fed him a lot. So I had a feeling that's whose record he was probably breaking when they said it was in question. I had a feeling Drew Cannon had that record, and he did. And Rashid was just And what I love about Rashid, he has received so much pub, rightfully so, but he's been so generous to make sure his teammates are mentioned a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Because he knows it's as a unit, and I think that's what makes this West Muskingum team so special is they are a unit. There's no jealousy. It's very tight-knit, and they operate like a family, and it's paying off the way they're playing this season.
Yeah, and they won the MVL Small School Division Championship this year. It's the first league title they've had since 2005, so a 9-1 regular season. They're only lost to Garraway on the year, and so they've a historic season to this point, and it continues against Union Local, who's 6-4 this year. They lost 2 of their last 3 regular season games against St. Clairsville, 8-2 team, and then undefeated Barnesville, who's undefeated for 2 straight seasons. So those 2 teams are no slouches by any means, and so they played some tough opponents. Their schedule's been really tough, but they found a way to get here to the playoffs. And honestly, I think this is setting up to be a pretty interesting matchup tonight.
It really is. I mean, you could say the Tornadoes are on upset alert, perhaps, because I think Union Local does have a deceiving 6-4 record. They've played some tough teams down where they compete in the OVAC and the Ohio Valley Athletic Conference in the Buckeye 8. So they are certainly battle-tested. Tidbit about Union Local as well. Colton McKivitz, lineman for the San Francisco Giants, played at West Virginia.
49ers.
Oh, my God. San Francisco 49ers was from Union Local, a recent graduate of West Virginia. And NFL. I mean, not many teams can say they got an NFL starter.
Especially around here. I mean, it's pretty special.
Absolutely. So that's a tidbit for you for the Jets. But, we cover them as well at Storied Rivals. Coach Bernie Thompson does a great job. And really excited to have them here in Zanesville. Also wanted to point out before we move on, Will, we were talking to Coach Brownrick here on the field before the game, and we were just talking about, 4 years ago, me and Coach were talking in the locker room like, I think you can fix this. I think you can do it, Coach.
Yeah.
I think in a few years people will be pretty surprised. And here we are 4 years later, and the Tornadoes are a force to be reckoned with. Just to keep in perspective, because I think people often forget very quickly, Before Coach Brownrigg got here, West Muskingum went through a 10-year stretch where they were 5-95.
Yeah.
One of the worst programs in the state of Ohio. And now we have this.
Yeah.
So things do get better, but also you can't forget where you came from. And I think no one here is, because they are super juiced to have the playoffs here at Whirlwind Stadium. They bought a ton of our playoff shirts this year, MVL champ shirts, first MVL title since 2005. So just super happy for them and excited to be here tonight.
Yeah, very excited. And I think, you said upset alert potentially. If you look at Union Local's offense, it's kind of an interesting story how they got here, because their starting quarterback through the first, Colby Carpenter started week 1, and then Isaiah Tomolona started weeks 2 through 6, and then on the final game-winning drive, Colby Carpenter has to come off the bench because Tomolonas goes down with a collarbone injury, leads a game-winning drive, and then starts the rest of the regular season. Played pretty well. He's only a sophomore, but it never seems like the moment is too big for him. He just steps in and just slings it around, and Dre Saunders is probably their biggest weapon through the air. He had 10 catches, $140, and a touchdown against Barnesville last week. He's a heck of an athlete, probably the best athlete that they have.
He is.
And then Brody Perzanowski, 1,000-yard rusher this year, is just a freshman.
Yeah.
And so they've got a talented offense, a little underrated, I think, by most, just because they're so young. And so I think people might be counting out the Jets a little bit, but that's what makes this matchup tonight super interesting to me.
Well, people talk about the expanded playoffs and is it right or not right. I don't love the 16 seeds. I think 12 is fine, and this is what we got here, a 12 versus a 5.
I agree with that.
Because I think there's some teams that from the 9 through 12 that were probably good enough to get in the playoffs that didn't previously. They're in now. So this is one of those matchups where we say upset potential because Union Local is a formidable opponent. Sometimes those teams slipping in at 15 to 16 seed, playing a 1 or 2 seed, you might have
pretty tough.
Tough sledding. But this is a matchup that kind of like an NCAA tournament, the seeds. There's a chance something funky could happen here, but you best believe the Tornadoes are going to be ready. Again, playoffs are here.
Yeah,
so many great
excited.
matchups tonight. We're covering, I think, 19 games perhaps.
Yeah.
Some other games in Muskingum Valley League. Buckeye Valley's at Tri-Valley tonight over in Dresden. John Glenn on the road, taking you on at Bell Fountain. Very tough matchup for the Muskies, the 10 at the 7. Morgan back in the playoffs, playing at number 2 seed Sheridan.
They played earlier on in the regular season, and it's hard to beat a team twice. So that could be an interesting game as well.
Absolutely. I think Morgan's going to come in there ready to play. Other games we're covering tonight, Edison at Ridgewood. Heath at Portsmouth West. That's a 9 versus 8. Heath, we cover the Bulldogs. They're 9-1, and they got to go on the road round 1, play a tough Portsmouth West team. And if they win, probably going to have to go to top seed Ironton.
Yeah, it's a
tough
draw. I mean,
really tough draw.
But sometimes it's just how it goes.
Right. Garraway's hosting Rock Hill, the 1 versus 16, and probably the furthest travel this playoff season. Rock Hill has to drive 4 hours as the 16 seed to Amish country and Sugar Creek to probably go home after about a half of football because Garraway's good. And that's a long ways. Hope they really enjoyed that Amish cooking up there.
Oh,
because it has to be worth that 4-hour trip.
Yeah, indeed. That's a tough matchup for sure. But there's a lot of tough matchups. Though. A couple teams have some really tough draws, and it's funny how the last couple of weeks of the season, projections might have been a little bit different, and so you're looking ahead and you're like, man, we might have kind of a favorable draw. Like if we take care of business, the round 1 of the playoffs, and things look good, but then weeks 9 and 10 shape up how they shape up, and the draw is a little bit different. So,
Will, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to let you do your thing, but I want to give a couple shout-outs. Of course, first, MaxEffortMuscle.com, our sponsor all season long. Best tasting protein on the planet. If you're trying to get some gains, just trying to get the right nutrients, check out MaxEffortMuscle.com. And special little sponsor tonight, I made a visit to Alfie's in Granville. Alfie's. They make everything homemade in-store, kind of like a deli, but they have a variety of different meals. In fact, they hooked us up with protein energy bites, some of the best I've had. But Alfie's in Granville. If you're going through Granville for any reason, great little meal. Tonight the Aces are hosting, Bexley?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
So we'll be at that game as well, but want to give Alfie's a shout-out. Super thankful for Alfie's right there in the heart of Granville. So, but yeah, looking forward to a fun night tonight, Will.
Yeah, super excited. Let's hop into the interviews that we have going. Head coach Nate Brownrigg of the West Muskingum Tornadoes talking about this historic season for the Tornadoes. MVL championship for the first time since 2005. Rashid Cisse's unbelievable record-breaking season. and talks about preparing for this Union Local Jets team that he has never coached or played against. And so it's an interesting thing because he's not watched film on them until this past week. So it's very interesting. And then I'll come back and talk for a few minutes, and then we'll sit down with head coach Bernie Thompson of the Jets, who's going to talk about how to stop this Rashid Cisse kid, which I don't think you can do, but how can you limit him in a way that makes it a little bit more favorable for your offense to try to keep pace. So here's head coach Nate Brownrigg on Stadium Drive, Week 11. Thanks so much for joining us here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. All right, we're here with head coach Nate Brownrigg of the West Muskingum Tornadoes ahead of Week 11, the first round of the playoffs, taking on the Union Local Jets, who are 6-4 this season. Coach, I really appreciate your time joining our show today. But let's talk about your season, because you won the MVL Small School Division Championship, first league title since 2005, 9-1 regular season. You beat the reigning small school champs, the New Lexington Panthers, during the season. You beat your alma mater, the Philo Electrics, a season full of tons of emotion, tons of achievements. But describe the energy, the excitement of you and your guys having a 9-1 season, winning the league title, and the excitement of the community as well as you head into Week 11 and the first round of the playoffs.
It's been awesome, man. I did a couple interviews after the game on Friday to talk about like what it feels like, and to be honest, it's not something that I've really let myself enjoy just yet. I think, and I think the players are kind of into that as well. That we still have some business to do, and kind of when things wrap up, we'll sit down and really reflect on the accomplishments. But there's no doubt it's been an awesome year. There's a lot of kind of validation into what we talked about, going all the way back to the summer and even into the spring. It's not really my style to talk about championships right out of the gate. Now we want to, we've hopefully put ourselves in a position to kind of, have a standard of being competitive and competing, at a high level. But the championship being the end game goal is not necessarily always something we talk about right from the get-go. And that's something that we did this year. The kids really bought into that, really worked for that. This senior class, being our first group of seniors since they came in as freshmen when we got here to start building the program. And they've really worked hard for the last 4 years, took lumps for a couple years, and really put us in position to be where we are now. It's a special group.
Now, Rashid Cisse had just about as unbelievable year as anyone we've seen in this league in a really long time. 39 total touchdowns, a new MVL record, which was set back in 2001 by Drew Cannon, who played for New Lex. 36 touchdowns scored by him. I mean, what's it been like to coach a player like Rashid Cisse? Because, I mean, he just does just about everything for you. He runs between the tackles. You can line him up out wide at wide receiver. He even throws a couple passes for you sometimes, throws some touchdowns. Like, what's it like to coach a player of his caliber? Because we haven't really seen someone like him in this league in a really long time.
Yeah, on top of all that, obviously as a coach, as a play caller, having an athlete like that can be, used in multiple spots is very fun. It's fun to game plan, to figure out different ways to get him involved, to get him the football. But on top of all that, he's a great person. He's a great young man, very, very mature for his age. He and I have conversations about, a lot of serious stuff all the time, for a long time. He's very unselfish. I think when you listen to him speak, he speaks very highly of his teammates, especially the offensive linemen. And, so he understands that, as good as he is, he would not be in the position he's in without those guys in front of him. And really all the guys around him as well. It's been great to have other guys step up to, take some pressure off of him a little bit. Other guys that can make plays like Jake and Carter and Connor and some of those other guys that we get involved. So he deserves everything he's gotten this year. As far as like the numbers go, they're incredible numbers, and that's not necessarily by. It's not like we sat out this season. Him himself or us as coaches were like, hey, let's see if we can get Rashid to break some records this year. But it just kind of played out that way. And again, he deserves all of it. Looking back, and I've been around the league for a long time. I actually played against Drew Cannon. He was a little bit younger than me, but was a great player, also a great person. Politician down in Perry County now, has helped out on the New Lex staff, a few times over the years. And so, But numbers wise, I don't know if there has been anyone like him in the entire history of the league, and really to do it on both sides of the ball, not just offensively. Obviously, he's a very dynamic offensive player, but I thought it was really fitting that last Friday, the touchdown that broke the league record, his 37th was a pick six, and I think just kind of shows his versatility, his overall athleticism, and just what kind of a really good football player he is.
Now, this Week 11 matchup, you've got the Union local Jets, 6-4 regular season. They've got a quarterback starting, though, who's a sophomore, who he played the first game of the year because their current quarterback was injured. Then he sat the bench, and then their starting quarterback got injured again in Week 6 and broke his collarbone, and he comes right off the bench and leads a game-winning drive against Weir, and they win 20-13. It just seems like the moment is never too big for this kid, Colby Carpenter. I mean, describe the challenge of preparing for a young quarterback who just seems to be so poised. The moment's not too big, and he's playing like a senior instead of a sophomore.
Yeah, it's one of the most exciting things about playoff football for me is coming up against new opponents and preparing for teams that you're not really used to. I've never played Union local before. We've never played Union local before, so it's been really cool to sit down and really break down a new team. I don't know their coaching staff at all either, but you can tell right away that really all of them, not just the young guy and the quarterback, but their tailback is a freshman. So they have some young guys playing big spots and big moments, and you can tell that it must be a reflection. To me, that's a reflection of their coaching staff having confidence in them. Kind of having that even keel approach as well, because you don't see them getting too high or too low in the films that we have. So it's definitely a challenge, not just because he's a young guy and is experiencing some success early, but just because it's all brand new. Their players are brand new, their schemes are brand new, their coaches are brand new. So that adds an element to the playoffs that I personally really enjoy, and I think our kids are starting to enjoy as well.
Well, Coach, we're looking forward to watching the game this Friday. Your team has had an incredible season, 9-1, league champs for the first time since 2005. Rashid Cisse breaking all sorts of records and breaking the MVL total touchdown record. Just an unbelievable season for you and your guys. But I really appreciate you joining our show today. Best of luck this Friday against the Jets, but also make another deep playoff run, man. And best of luck the rest of the way. And thanks so much for the time today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And our focus right now is just one day at a time, 1 week at a time, and enjoying this time together.
There's not many players like Rashid Cisse playing football in Ohio. He is the man for West Muskingum. He's the one that the Jets are going to have to really key in on tonight. Broke the single-season touchdown record in the MVL, 39 total touchdowns this season. Broke the record with a pick six, as you heard Coach Nate Brownrigg talk about. And that record was set by Drew Cannon back in 2001, so a record that stood for over 20 years. But in Week 10 against Meadowbrook, in the league title clinching victory, 49-10 win, he threw a touchdown pass. He rushed for 43 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then the pick six, like I mentioned. He really just does just about everything for this West Muskingum team. You can line him up out wide. He can run between the tackles. He can run east-west. He can throw a football. I mean, he's throwing passes for this team, and he does just about everything. And it's really going to be interesting for Union Local, Bernie Thompson, this defense. How do the Jets stop a guy like Rashid Cisse, who has just been so dominant all season long? He scores in many different ways. They get him the ball in a ton of different ways. Do you always just keep 2 guys on him? Do you keep when he's lined up in the backfield, are 2 linebackers just following wherever he goes? If he's lined up out wide, do you always have safety help over top? What do you do to try to just – you're not going to stop him. He's going to get his. He's going to get his touches. He'll probably score a touchdown or 2. But how are you going to limit him so that way you force someone else to beat you if you're Union Local? Obviously, West M's got so many other great athletes and great people to get the football to. but do you try to just make someone else beat you, and you just come out tonight and you say Rashid Cisse is not going to beat us? It's going to be a very interesting matchup, and we're looking forward to seeing how that goes. But head coach Bernie Thompson, we'll get into the interview with the Jets head coach. It's super interesting how their season has transpired because their starting quarterback in week 1 is their current quarterback, Colby Carpenter. And he's played really well. They got a win in week 1, but then Isaiah Tomalonis, off a preseason injury, comes back week 2, plays through week 6, and a very improvisational quarterback, does a lot with his legs and makes some big plays, extending plays with his feet. He goes down with a collarbone injury in the fourth quarter in week 6 against Weir, and Colby Carpenter comes off the bench, leads a game-winning drive. And Union Local wins that game 20-13, and he's the starter the rest of the way through the regular season. And he's just really been as cool as a cucumber, cool as the other side of the pillow. The moment doesn't seem too big. He really spreads the ball around. He's a little bit different of a style compared to Tomalonis. Colby can really, really throw it, really distribute, and he's just playing super well. And he's got Dre Saunders, his top wide receiver, 10 catches, a $140 and a touchdown last week. Brody Perzanowski in the backfield, who's a 1,000-yard rusher. Tons of offensive support around him, and I really think this offense and this team as a whole, the Union Local Jets, are underrated just because they've played such a tough schedule, especially down the stretch, throughout the rest of the regular season, the last 3 weeks of the regular season. Really tough stretch in the Buckeye 8. But I really do think they've got a good shot against this West End team tonight. So here's head coach Bernie Thompson talking about the play of his young sophomore quarterback, Colby Carpenter, as he stepped in mid-season because of an injury. The play of his offense and how he plans on, game planning to not stop but slow down Rashid Cisse, who has just been so dominant all season long. Here's Bernie Thompson on Stadium Drive, Week 11 playoff football, live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Thanks so much for joining us. Here's Bernie Thompson. All right, we're here with head coach Bernie Thompson of the Union Local Jets ahead of Week 11. It's playoff time, man, so it's super exciting. First of all, congrats on making it to the dance, because obviously that's the goal every year for every team. Obviously, you want to win every game, but kind of by any means necessary, however you get to the playoffs, you get to the playoffs. So first of all, congrats on that, and thanks so much for joining our show today.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me, Will.
So 6-4 regular season, but 2 of the last 3 games that you played this year, you lost to an 8-2 St. Clairsville team, and then 10-0 Barnesville, 2 really, really good teams, and kind of a measuring stick for your program. But how do you think those 2 games against those really tough opponents prepped you for Week 11 and this playoff run that you're about to embark on?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, first and foremost, I think I'd put our schedule up with anybody. We have a tough schedule, week in and week out. I mean, no easy games. Our first loss against Harrison Central, I think they ended up 8-2. Beaver Local is a tough team, and then obviously ending with a gauntlet, St. C. Belair and our rivals. It's not easy. So, and we knew that, and something that we struggled with the past few years was just finishing in the second half of the year. And really, the second half, we had a winning schedule for the first time in many years. So I think it's just a compliment to our coaches, to our kids for battling and just being mentally and physically ready for that gauntlet those last 3 games. But St. Clairsville, they're just they're an unbelievable program. So I had to go in there, learned a lot of lessons during that game, and then Week 10 against our rivals, man. They're 10-0 team, second year in a row they went 10-0. I mean, like they're tough. They're legit, well coached, ton of players. So, I'm proud of how our kids handled this year. To finish 6-4 with our type of schedule was not easy. So, really, we've been battle tested. We've played in a lot of close games this year. So I think that's really going to be beneficial heading into playoff round 1.
Another storyline to your team this year, and kind of adds to, I guess, the adversity that you face. Like, you lost your quarterback, Isaiah Tomalonis, in the middle of the season, like week 5 or 6. And then your sophomore quarterback, Colby Carpenter, steps in against Weir and leads a game-winning drive, just steps onto the field, makes it look easy, and wins the game for your team. And now he's been playing ever since. But how do you evaluate just the way that he stepped in and just
competed for you through the second half of the regular season, set you up in a really good position. And then obviously now you're in the playoffs. But how do you evaluate just the way that he's stepped in as such a young kid to play in some big moments, win you football games, and just play really well?
Sure. Yeah. Colby's a tough kid. He's a great kid. Really, he stepped in week one for us. Isaiah got hurt, prior to week one. So we came into, the first game of the season with the sophomore quarterback, really didn't know much about Colby. So kind of rolled the dice with him. He came out, had a tremendous second half, led us to victory week one. So he gained a ton of respect in the locker room that week. And then Isaiah came back, and Isaiah is a phenomenal athlete, led us to some huge wins. And then unfortunately went out that game, broke his collarbone. It was devastating for us to see our leader go out. And then Colby stepped right in, that fourth quarter, that last drive of the game led us to a touchdown, just calm, cool, collected. And then again, right there, we knew he was very capable. And then for him as a sophomore to step in and have to play these last three games against those three opponents was not an easy task. But he's handled himself very, very well. He's one of those kids. He's mature beyond his age. He's not rattled, which I'm, very rare to see a 15-year-old, 16-year-old kid step in and that type of environment and not be rattled. And he really wasn't. So we have a ton of confidence in him, heading into this playoff game, with him leading us. We're not worried at all. I think we're kind of one of those teams where, we're young enough. What you don't know, and we don't care. And we're going to go and we're going to sling it around with Colby, and he's going to lead us. And and then really we're young in the backfield, because if you look to your right, our running back, he's a freshman too. So but just proud of the way that Colby's handled himself. Not only playing, in the games, but just how he's prepared. The mental aspect of everything, and just being the leader that he is.
Now, your Week 11 test is West Muskingum. They're the MVL small school division champions, and I want to know how you're going to prepare for a guy like Rashid Cisse, who scored 39 touchdowns this year and broke the MVL record, and it's a record that stood for over 20 years. You're obviously not going to stop him. I mean, he does what he does, but how do you game plan for a guy that just has such game-breaking speed? They line him up at receiver, running back. He even throws the ball occasionally too. So he's really a guy that you have to account for in so many different ways. How do you go about prepping for what West Muskingum does offensively, getting him the football in whatever ways that they do, just to give your team a chance to compete with a high-scoring offense like West Muskingum has?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I knew nothing about this young man until I watched him on film, and then I knew really fast, he's the real deal. Just a phenomenal athlete. Runs the ball extremely well. Excuse me, hard-nosed, elite speed, right? And they line him up in the slot. They'll put him backside. He'll throw a touchdown. He's going to be really tough to defend. I think we have to do a good job of always, recognizing where is he, right? Because I think sometimes he'll take you to the ball. So just understanding where he's at, understanding what they're trying to do. I mean, we try to break down film this weekend. He's a phenomenal athlete. And like you said, he's going to get his. I mean, you don't stop a player like that. You can only try to limit them. So I think what we're going to try to do is limit him the best we can. The quarterback's a tremendous athlete as well. He likes to use his legs, and he can sling it around too. They got some athletes on the outside. So we're going to have our hands full. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, it's a playoff game. They're going to be good. They're playing at home, and they have a phenomenal athlete on their side. So we're just going to have to do our best of, not giving them anything, right? We're going to do our best to probably kick away from him, right? To gang tackle, to not turn the ball over. All those little things add up in a big game like this. So we'll just try to do our part, and then, whatever happens, happens.
Well, Coach, we're really looking forward to watching the game this Friday. Best of luck in Week 11. Go get a win, make a deep playoff run, and you guys, a sophomore quarterback, you guys seem to be pretty dangerous with that sophomore quarterback leading the way, and I'm really excited to see what you guys do in the playoffs. But thanks so much for your time today.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. The Jets are excited to be in the playoffs. And what I told my boys is when I'm filling out a March Madness bracket, 12-5, I'm always circling that because, somebody's going down. So why not us? So we're excited just to be a part of it. And thanks for having me, Will.
This is the Jets trio. that's led them to this 6-4 regular season record, playing a really, really tough schedule, and a draw against West Muskingum, the 5 seed, here tonight. Colby Carpenter, their quarterback, led them to a win week 1 and sat the bench, came off the bench in week 6, led a game-winning drive, and has played the rest of the way, and he's been cool, composed, and just so good and unfazed for this Union Local Jets offense. Brody Perzanowski, just a freshman. Carpenter, by the way, is a sophomore. Brody Perzanowski, a freshman, 1,000 yards rushing this regular season. And Dre Saunders, he is the top wideout for this team. This is the guy they're going to get the ball to whenever they move it through the air. 10 catches, $140, and a touchdown against a really, really good Barnesville Shamrocks team who's 10-0 for the second straight season. And their program, they've just got a ton of dudes, great coaching. And so for a kid like Dre Saunders, who is just immensely talented as a wide receiver, that's who they're going to be looking to get the ball to tonight. And really, I think this is interesting because both teams are obviously very solid. I think both teams are very solid up front, offensive line, defensive line. I honestly think it's strength on strength. And when you have something like that, I think the first half is going to be a bit of a stalemate. I don't think there's going to be much scoring in the first quarter, and it might be a low score at the end of the first half. Now, I say that now, and I'm probably going to be completely dead wrong, and it could be a shootout, like 28-21 after 2 quarters of play. Who knows? But I do think that up front, it's strength on strength, and so I think it's going to be a bit of a stalemate early. And so the key is, which offense separates in the second half, because obviously there's not many teams in this area that have a kid like Rashid Cisse, who is just got game-breaking speed and is a tremendous, unbelievable athlete. But then, for the Jets to have a young quarterback who just doesn't seem bothered by big moments, a freshman running back who is just pounding it, and picking up yards, 1,000 yards rushing, and you got a really good wide receiver in Saunders. This is a really interesting matchup between 2 really good offenses, and I think this is probably the best matchup in the area. The games that we're covering, this is why I'm here at this game tonight, because I do think this is going to be the best game out of the bunch, and I think it's going to be really, really close, and I'm super excited. But I do want to take you through the draw for both of these teams and what could be on the horizon for whoever wins this game. So let's take a look here at the bracket for Division 5, Region 19. And if you can't see it, I'll read it to you on the screen. So number 1, Ironton, and number 16, Worthington Christian. Portsmouth West and Heath are the 8 and 9 seeds. Harvest Prep and number 13, New Lex, the Panthers. And then, of course, West Em, Union Local, 5 versus 12. Fairland versus Portsmouth, 2 versus 15 seed. Eastwood versus Afrocentric, 7 versus 10. Archibald and Frederick, 3 versus 14. And Coldwater versus Indian Lake. So that's the draw, and the winner of this game, West Muskingum Union Local, will play the winner of Harvest Prep New Lexington. So that could be very interesting, and if Harvest Prep were to win, then either West Em or Union Local is going to travel in the second round of the playoffs to Harvest Prep. But if New Lex were to win that game and pull off an upset, then the winner of this game, West Em or Union Local, would get to host a playoff game in the second round. And so how it works is top seeds host through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, and then round 3 you go to neutral sites. So that's very interesting. But the winner of this game tonight will play either Harvest Prep or New Lexington. So that's very interesting. And then let's take a look also at some games that we're covering, playoff games that we're covering in the area. And we'll start with Eastern and Northeastern Ohio. And we heard Aaron talk about these a little bit earlier. But we have, and that graphic's right over my face. Here, let's switch that up here briefly. I don't want to put a graphic over top of my face there. But you can see them. So that looks a lot better. We have number 9, Canfield, at number 8, Akron East. That's in Division 3, Region 9. Number 11, Buckeye Valley at number 6, Tri-Valley, D3 Region 11. Our second D3 Region 11 game is number 10, John Glenn, at number 7, Bell Fountain. And John Glenn just kind of got a bit of an injury bug here at the end of the season, which you don't like to see for any team. So that's going to be a very tough matchup for them. Two teams that played earlier in the regular season, Division 4 Region 15, number 2 Sheridan and number 15 Morgan. And Sheridan won that one in the regular season, but it's always tough to beat a team twice. And so that's going to be a very interesting matchup, I think. Number 7 Ridgewood and number 10 Edison do battle in Division 5 Region 17. Another super tough draw for Heath. Heath 8-2 regular season, a league title, and they're the 9 seed going to Portsmouth West, Division 5 Region 19. And then number 1 Garraway playing against number 16 Rock Hill in Division 6 Region 23. I mean, that is about as tough as it gets for Rock Hill. And you heard Aaron talking, they're going to travel 4 hours to go play a Garraway team that is just unbelievably good, and that might be over after a half, and that is the way it is, but that's really tough. And then let's show you some games also in Central and Western Ohio. So let's pull this up for you here. Games that we're covering, and the teams highlighted in blue, again, are the schools that we produce the Unreal highlights for. So in Central and Western Ohio, Division 1 Region 2, we have 4 games going on there. Number 16 Dublin Jerome at number 1 Olentangy. Number 13 Olentangy Orange at number 4 Centerville. That could be a really interesting matchup, along with number 14 Olentangy Liberty at number 3 Findlay. And then number 11 Kettering Fairmont at number 6 Dublin Kaufman. And Kaufman, huge win at the end of the regular season, defeating Hilliard Bradley, undefeated. They were 9-0 at the time, so they're riding a high. And then on to Division 1 Region 3, Gahanna with a massive win against Pickerington North in double overtime last week. League title, they claim the number 1 seed, and they host Reynoldsburg. Number 4 Upper Arlington hosts number 13 Thomas Worthington. Grove City travels to Hilliard Davidson. And number 12, New Albany at number 5, Pick Central. Now on to Division 3, Region 11, Bexley at Granville. And Granville 10-0, league champs, super good. And then number 8, Hamilton Township. They get a tough draw. They were 9-1, and then they lost their last regular season game, and they were shut out. And so now, how do they rebound going into the playoffs? And they get a tough draw against 9 seed Miami Trace. So they could have this historic season. They have this tough draw here. And so it's interesting for Hamilton Township to see how they rebound following their Week 10 loss. And then in Division 4, Region 15, number 12, Jonathan Alder at number 5, Bishop Ready. So very interesting matchups going on in the area, in the Central and Western Ohio areas. And those are the games that we'll be at tonight. But let's wrap up tonight just briefly talking about this game again and what's at stake. Like I said, the winner of this game, West M and Union Local, they will play the winner of Harvest Prep and New Lexington. And I think, of course, both of these teams would love to see New Lex pull off an upset. But Harvest Prep is a very tough team. They run it a lot more than they throw it. They've got a 225-pound quarterback, and they just run the ball a lot. They run it a lot more than they throw it. And that's going to be whoever wins this game, that will pose a challenge up front for either West M or Union Local to try to stop the rushing offense of Harvest Prep. So it's going to be really interesting, but obviously Rashid Cisse is the guy to stop on West M's offense. 39 total touchdowns this season, and he's probably going to add a couple more tonight. He is the focal point. What does Union Local do? Do they bring somebody over or to just help over top when he's lined up out wide? Do 2 guys follow him all the time? I'm sure you're going to double him at some point. What do you do to force someone else to beat you other than Rashid Cisse? But I'm also interested to see how the West M defense holds up against this trio offensively that Union Local has, because Perzanowski runs just so physical between the tackles as a freshman running back. Colby Carpenter, unfazed by the moment as a sophomore quarterback, and has only played in 6 games this season. And then Dre Saunders can really take the top off of a defense and is an extremely talented wide receiver. So this is going to be very interesting. And once again, we'll show you the bracket really quick before we get out of here. This is Division 5, Region 19. and the winner, West M, Union Local, will play the winner of Harvest Prep, New Lex. And if Harvest Prep were to win, West M or Union Local would travel to Harvest Prep in round 2. If New Lex were to pull off an upset, then either West M or Union Local would host in round 2. So a lot on the line, and we're very interested to see how everything shakes out. But thanks so much for joining us here on Stadium Drive Week 11. You can tell it's a little bit dark now. You can probably barely see me. The clouds are starting to roll in. Hopefully it doesn't rain on us tonight, but if you're here coming to the game, you're watching me, checking us out, we really appreciate it all season long. We did our first show here in Week 1, and so to be here in Week 11 back at West M High School, it's kind of full circle, and it's fantastic, and we should have a great game on tap for you tonight. I'll be providing you some social media highlights throughout the game on Twitter, or I guess X. I'm never going to not call it Twitter. It's Twitter to me. But anyways, make sure you follow us on all the socials tonight, so that way you can get updates on all the playoff games, each division, each region, all the games that we're covering, so that way you can stay up to date. And but if you're interested in West M Union Local tonight, because I do think this is the best game going on, really out of all the games that we're covering tonight, make sure you tap in on Twitter for some social media updates and some clips, some highlights as well. But make sure you follow us on Facebook and YouTube throughout the week next week, because we'll have highlights from these playoff games, and then we'll get you ready for Stadium Drive Week 12 as well. So I'm excited to see, because we can always look ahead on the schedule during the regular season to see what game we would maybe want to do, but now we kind of just have to let the cards fall as they may and see what matchups come of these big-time playoff games. Once again, want to thank our sponsor, MaxEffortMuscle.com, the best tasting protein in the game. I have it every single day, along with some other supplements. Got a T-shirt. Love their stuff. Love their fitness content that Corey G and the guys put out. And then also our sponsor tonight as well, another sponsor, Alfie's out of Granville. I had some of those protein bites that Aaron had here to start the show. I had them a little bit ago, and they're pretty solid. They're really, really good. And I wish I lived closer to Granville so I can go get some more. So definitely go if you're in the Granville area, you're passing through, need a snack or need something to eat, stop by Alfie's in Granville. Those protein bites were delicious, and that's what I would recommend. But Max Effort and Alfie's, we really appreciate their support. And thanks so much for following us all season long. Playoff football, baby. Doesn't get it more exciting than this. It's a little bit cold, so I'm going to put on a hoodie now, and then I'm going to put out some social media clips for when this game starts at 7 o'clock. But thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you in Stadium Drive Week 12, and make sure you follow us on all the socials for updates on all these playoff games that we're covering. But we'll see you in Week 12. Take care. Will Ford signing off for now. We'll see you soon.